r/NoSleep. Posted by you/The Dangerous. I've lived here for 9 years. Today, my key can't open the door. My name is Christopher Jameson. I live alone and I love it. There's never any surprises. Nobody gets in without my permission. There's no sudden mess. And most importantly, nobody touches what's in my fridge. It had been a long day. My long, large nose was runny with snot since I woke up. My brown eyes itched, and even more when I touched them. I kept finding strands of my brown hair on the table. Something thumped in my ears and it drove me nuts. My boss gave me a loud ear lashing for a mistake I didn't make, and I kept clicking the wrong buttons as I coded. But it was finally over, and all I wanted to do was grab a cold beer and sink into my comfy couch. It was about 6 p.m. but the moon was already out in the middle of the sky, and the darkness cloaked over the streets, chased away only by the streetlights that had started shining too early. I had only seen yellow-lit windows, and the occasional car driving past. No people on the streets. The entrance to the apartment intimidated me the first month I lived here. It was a large door of thick glass rimmed by steel. The handle was a bar of metal that stuck out with grips to make it easier to pull. To the side of the door, on the wall, there's numerous metal plates and metallic numbers, and a large scanner for keycards. Breaking in through brute force was near impossible. Thump. The sudden noise makes me jump. I jerk my head upwards to the right to see black feathers slowly wafting through the air, and a crow flying away. It had flown into the window. Odd. I reach for the key card inside my black, tidy jacket that I bought 9 years ago. It's in a pocket within my jacket that's in an odd spot, but I find it instantly. Plucking it out, I sweep it over the scanner. Beep. I pull open the heavy door and step inside. The lights give off a slight droning hum. The door shuts close behind me. The lights start flickering. I've lived here for 9 years, and I've never seen them flicker. I ponder if I've let in a ghost here. I chuckle at that silly thought. My room is 6 stairs up, a right turn, about a 15-second walk, a left, roughly 7 meters down the red carpet, and there's a door with the metallic numbers 317 screwed into it. I stick the key into the lock and try to turn it, but it won't budge. Mindlessly, I attempt to turn it a few more times before looking down to see my key only halfway into the lock. My brain can't comprehend it. I take out the key, stare at it vacantly like a man seeing life for the first time, then I push it back into the keyhole. It only goes halfway. It only goes halfway. I heard something behind the door. I listened closely, pressing up my ears against the thick wood. There was faint tapping like a few giant spiders sneaking on the walls. I heard something more, a faint voice, muttering something I couldn't quite decipher. Yeth. It's true, I swear. This. Multiple times. Really fun. Don't worry. Hello, I shouted. There was silence, and then, I heard glass shattering. My fists banged against the door. Get the fuck out of my home, you creeps. I snapped out the phone and I was just about to call the cops when I felt somebody tapping against my shoulders. My head jerked to the right. My jaw dropped. Standing there was a creature of 4 meters length, head bent down to not hit up against the roof. It stared at me with a strange smile, the type you have when you accidentally meet your neighbors in pajamas. Its long, sharp, slender hands with 3 rotten black fingers about 7 inches each carrying long sharp nails slowly rose towards me. I felt my heart speed up. The hand lightly pushed my chest and I took a few steps backwards. It slowly drifted to the door handle, turned it, and the door opened wide. It got down on 4 and crawled through, shutting the door. After a few seconds, I fell out of shock, and I rattled the handle but the door wouldn't budge. Suddenly, screams came from the inside. The padding against the floor turned into thumps. I heard wood snap, and glass shatter over and over. The door shook and shivered, something being thrown into it. I jumped back, pushing myself up against the wall. What the hell? I scanned the corridor and I realized that I was completely alone. I heard screaming coming from inside the apartment, like chimpanzees in a fight. Then it stopped, just like that. Dropped dead silent. The door slowly creaked open, and I could imagine the monster from before bashing the door open and rushing out with whatever else was inside, but that never happened. Eventually, I pushed myself off the wall and I slowly creeped over. I swung the door open. There was nothing unordinary there. The white vases weren't broken. The short tables are whole and intact. The paintings on the wall hung as still as ever. There was no signs of anyone being in my home except for me. I walked through every room, checking behind and under the furniture. The windows were shut close as if nobody had opened them. What the hell happened? Eventually, I just couldn't bring myself to care. I was too exhausted and I needed my cold beer. I opened my fridge and without looking, I instinctively reached for the spot where I always kept beer. There was nothing there. The next story of this video. Posted by you/Life is Strange Me Too. A talking hat taught me a magic trick. I fumbled the palm, and the coin clattered to the floor. "You're doing it wrong, kid," said a voice from behind me. I turned around, but the room was, of course, empty. It was a cluttered old classroom that hadn't been used since the 1970s, and a thick layer of dust coated the old falling apart textbooks, cardboard boxes and other various bits of assorted garbage that now lined the walls. I knew before I turned that the room would be empty, because I had chosen it to practice my magic tricks, specifically because nobody ever came here. Yet as I squinted in the semi-darkness of the room, searching for the source of the voice, I got the distinct feeling that I wasn't actually alone. "Hello?" I called out to the dusty garbage. "Yes?" said the voice. It was a smooth, pleasing baritone. "Where are you?" I asked. "Oh, how rude of me," said the voice. "Sometimes I forget that I'm invisible." There was a shimmer of silvery dust on one of the tables, and the indistinct shadows of whatever junk had been there formed themselves into a hat. It was an old, silk top hat with a bright red band, the kind of hat that magicians would have worn 50 years ago. The magician in me looked for the trick, but there was none that I could see. I smiled. "Hey, how do you do that?" I asked. "You mean turn into a hat?" said the hat. "Ah, but that is my greatest trick. I could never reveal the secret. I could, however, tell you how to stop messing up that coin palm. And maybe a few other, special, tricks. If you prove worthy." I couldn't help but grin at the absurdity of the situation. I was talking to a hat. Discreetly, I reached my hand behind my leg and pinched myself, hard. "That's a myth," said the hat. "Pinching yourself in a dream won't really wake you up." I grinned and shook my head. Whoever this magician was, he was unbelievably good. "Okay," I said. "I'll bite. How do I not screw up the palm?" "It's simple. When you slide the coin between your fingers, just whisper these words, Erinto, Beski, Karap." I chuckled. It would be just my luck if I found out after all my practice that the key to being a good magician really was magic words in the end. Humoring the hat, I tried the coin palm again, this time whispering the words as I slid it between my fingers. But instead of sliding smoothly into my palm, the coin simply vanished. I turned my hand over, and over again, but there was no trace of the coin. Either this magician was really good, or what? Asked the hat. Or it was really magic? For the first time since the hat had spoken to me, I felt a tingle of unease run up my spine. "Just relax," I told myself. "It's only a hat, after all." Later on, I'd realized that it hadn't been me who told myself this at all, but the hat, using my inner voice as a puppet. "Yes," I said. "I guess that's right. Don't be stupid," snapped the hat, its voice sharp. The voice resumed its soothing baritone as it said, "I'm terribly sorry about that. Sometimes I can be an absolute beast." "It's fine," I said, feeling with a growing certainty that it wasn't. There was a moment of silence. I cleared my throat and said, "So, how do I make the coin reappear?" The hat laughed at this, a rumbling chuckle of amusement under which something ugly seemed to be hiding. "You don't," it said. "All magic requires sacrifice, even such a small bit as making a coin disappear. The coin is the price you paid for your trick." "What did you have to sacrifice to turn yourself into a hat?" I said. I was surprised that the words came out in a whisper. The hat laughed again. "Oh, this?" it said. "Nothing important, only my body. And it was old and failing me anyway. But that's not the important question." "It's not?" I asked. "No," said the hat. "The important question is, what am I going to have to sacrifice to become human again?" The dread prickled up my spine again, touching each vertebra with an icy finger. "I think I'd better go," I said, taking a backward step toward the door. I didn't dare take my eyes off the hat. Yet in my moment of fear, I'd forgotten the most fundamental skill of a good magician. A good magician makes you look exactly where he wants you to, while the magic goes on behind your back. I felt gloved hands seize my neck from behind and squeeze so tight I thought my eyes might pop out from the pressure. The gloves, that's what I suspected they were, empty gloves, were impossibly strong. They lifted me off the floor and shook me back and forth, my arms and legs flailing helplessly, kicking and scratching at the body that should have been behind me but wasn't. Before my vision tunneled into complete blackness, an absurd idea struck me. I seized the glove's hands with my own. I could no longer speak, but I thought the words, Erinto, Beski, Karab, as hard as I could. The pain in my neck vanished and I fell to the floor, sucking in rasping gulps of air. There was a horrible voice in my head, screaming profanities and other words which I had never heard before. I grabbed the top of the table, pulled myself up. Then, turning around, I stumbled towards the door. Yet when I reached for the handle, my hand flickered, turning translucent and mist-like. My hand passed through the handle. I looked down at my body, which was flickering in between reality and insubstantiality a few times every second. I poised my hand above the handle and waited for it to become solid, becoming more and more aware of a malevolent presence behind me. A voice in my head urged me to look, to face my death like a man. I ignored it. After an eternal few seconds, my hand became solid again, and I seized the handle and threw open the door, falling out into the lighted hallway beyond. The door slammed shut behind me with a heavy thud. I lay panting on the ground, clothes plastered to me with sweat, and stared with horror at my hand. It was translucent and mist-like, and then it wasn't there at all.